Hey everybody, I'm Ashleigh Banfield, and this is Drop Dead Serious, and welcome to the Vermont studio. As is evidenced by raging fire and 0 degrees outside. I can't believe what's happening in Virginia, and I'm not talking weather, I'm talking Banfield. So, no relation, but Brendan Banfield has been on the stand in his murder trial. And if you don't know this case, pour a whiskey or an absinthe or whatever it is that gets you through the oh my God factor, because this guy, no relation, is a lying sack of shit. Okay, so whether the jury finds him guilty or not, I can say definitively he's a lying sack of shit. He's a cheater, he's a liar, and I don't like his beady eyes when he looks at the jury. I'm going to show you what I mean in just a minute. But I need to tell you something, because while we're talking about the Brendan Banfield love triangle story where he's alleged to have, had this affair with the nanny that they brought in, and then the two of those lying sacks of shit orchestrated the murder of his wife and brought in a poor, unsuspecting guy to be the patsy, the fall guy. So these are the allegations. It's a love story because it's Valentine's Day coming up, right? And to that point, have you bought your special somebody that special something? Because I put Valentine's Day merch on the website. I love you to death, and I'm drop dead serious about you. Like, come on, that's what you need, right? Chocolates, flowers, but a sweatshirt that says I love you to death. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know that's there, because I always think way too last minute about Valentine's Day. And Chris is upstairs, so he's probably going to hear what he's going to get. But check it out. It's in the link below. You can't miss it. But I'm going to tell you something about this case, about the Brendan Banfield no relation story. I have covered so many murder cases. In my 38 years, I have been to the rodeo, y'all. I've seen the chaos. I've seen the rage. I've seen the jealousy. I've seen the hate. I've seen the bitches. I've seen the bastards, right? And I've seen this crime that just spirals out of control. This case is batshit crazy. It's different. And it hits different, because what happened inside the Banfield home, no relation, wasn't just violent. It was orchestrated. It was premeditated. It was planned. It was vile. It was disgusting. And the deeper that you go into the evidence, the harder it is to just dismiss, the things that might be the coinkydinks or whatever. It's hard to dismiss how damning a lot of the evidence is, and I've got the evidence for you. Only took about 4 or 5 hours to go through a couple hundred files from the court, but it was worth every second, because I saw up close and personal what the investigators look at when they comb through a crime scene and collect the evidence, and then they have to force themselves to look at some of these things you'd really probably rather not look at. But then there's some things I'm going to show you where you're going to be like, oh, damn. The lying sack of shit. Both of them. The mistress and that master of the house, right? Lying sacks of shit. I feel really strongly about this case. Not only because of the alleged murder, and I certainly feel like this guy ain't going to walk, but I feel like everything that led up to it makes him so hate-worthy, because, let me face it here, I don't think I need to tell you this, but when you're facing murder and you're going to walk into a courtroom and you're going to, be on trial in front of 12 of your peers, your number one job is they got to like you, right? They got to like you. If they don't like you, your effing goose is cooked. It is hard for jurors to hate people and then give them a break. They're just human. They're human. But this guy, I repeat, is a lying sack of shit. And he got on this stand and he did his little song and dance, beady-eyed bullshit for the jurors. And I am always mindful of of a person who looks at the jurors when they're on the stand and they want to tell you the story, so they keep looking over to you, right? And then there's like the Murdoch way, where they're basically trying to sell you a beady-eyed bucket of bullshit. And you can just tell. You can just tell. And there's a reason that we put people on the stand and we look them in the eye and we ask them questions. because we have guts and we have gut feelings. And when you look someone in the eye and they try to sell you a sack of shit lie, you can usually trust your gut that what you're hearing is bullshit. And I'm sorry, but Brendan Banfield is just a lying sack of bullshit. How many times can I say it? I'm so aggravated by this person. Before you even get to the murder, right? Before you even get to the 2 murders that were committed. So I'm going to walk through everything with you in case you're just coming up to speed. But this case has body cam footage from the very moment that the police arrived at the murder scene. They've got crime scene photographs that document just extraordinary violence in that master bedroom. There are social media posts that reveal lying sack of shit, dirty, cheating relationships, right? Master of the house, stupping the nanny. Nobody was supposed to see that stuff. Guess what else nobody was supposed to see? The jailhouse love letters that the sack of shit nanny was writing to the sack of shit master of the house. I still love you, and we're going to be together. There is a digital trail of messages that pretty much explains exactly how an outsider, a poor, unsuspecting guy, was lured into the middle of this murderous plot, right? If you take each of these pieces of evidence one by one, each one on its own is so troubling and it will make your blood boil. But if you take them together, they tell a story that is impossible to ignore. After days and days of testimony, and now the closing arguments, and you know who got on the stand to try to save his own skin, right? The jury's got the case. Yeah, they're deliberating. And I'm going to just be perfectly honest. I assumed I'm bringing this to you on Friday. It's January 30th. And I'm like, yeah, juries don't like going past Fridays because it means they're going into the weekend and they got to come back Monday. Usually they like to have verdicts on Fridays, but they just got the case. It'd be pretty hard to say, well, we just got the case, and unless you're OJ, 4 hours, we got a verdict. No. So they're going to go over the weekend and let this fester, because I don't think it sits with you. I think it festers, this kind of case. And they're going to come back and be deliberating on Monday, and maybe they'll have a verdict Monday, because if I was on the jury, I'd have had it today. But they are tasked with something very, very big and very, very important. They have to sort through a mountain of evidence. And believe me, Lindsay and I sorted through the mountain, and we just vomited together, and we had a glass of wine together, just trying to process I don't even know how to describe it other than the bullshit that we had to go through, right? So in this episode, we're going to give it to you. We dug through it for you, and we're going to push it all your way so that you can actually see what the jurors have seen and what the jurors have heard in the murder trial of Brendan Banfield. No relation. The evidence that the prosecutors say tells a very different story than the one Mr. Banfield is trying to sell us from the stand. And the story he sold the cops from the minute they arrived at his door. Oh, my wife. Oh. I mean, wait until you see it. It's like, it's so cringe seeing this guy whimpering, my wife. Buckle up. I'm going to walk you through some of the most damning and disturbing evidence in this case, starting with the very first moments that the police arrived, body cams ablazing. That footage begins inside the master bedroom of the Banfield home during the emergency response. Officers and medics move through the house, right? On the recording, Brendan Banfield is seen and he's heard becoming physically unsteady. I can't stand on my feet anymore. As the responders work the scene, you can hear the officers noting that Brendan is starting to, quote, freak out a little bit. And they ask that somebody stay with him while the rest of the house is being secured. On the audio, you can hear the officers discuss the need to get Brendan out of the house. So just think, they are arriving at a bloody scene with a wife dead and what looks like maybe a guy with a knife, an intruder. And the husband is like crying. So what do they think? The officers think, this poor husband, he's a victim in all of this, right? His wife is dead. There's likely this intruder or the knife. This poor guy, we got to treat him with kid gloves. I want to vomit. I want to vomit. But you take a look, you decide.
Okay. The striker there. We're gonna have to get him out of here.
Yeah, I know.
Can you give him a second? Don't touch anything else.
I'm not. Let me change my gloves out. We can get him out of here.
So Brendan is heard saying he feels unsteady and he falls to his knees, and the officers repeatedly guide him, telling him to watch where he's stepping and slow down and take deep breaths and kid glove, kid glove, kid glove as they move him through the house. At one point, the body camera shows that Brendan, just can't hold up his own weight anymore, and down to the ground he goes, right? And the officers have to assist him up as they try to move him safely, discussing whether he's able to walk or whether they should wait and, do it at his pace, because poor Brendan. And they ultimately decide he's going to need a moment for some fresh air.
So, again, they're down there. What I want to do is get
Just
you
watch what you're kicking, please.
All right? Does that work?
I know what you got to do. I'm just...
If you can't walk, we can wait a minute. Give me a minute.
I think, just getting you some fresh air right now, I think will help, okay? So we can get you outside.
You got gloves on? Yes. Can you help him? Just be with him?
Yep.
So then the body cam captures officers helping Brendan to his feet, steadying him, and then escorting him towards the exterior of the house. And once outside, Brendan Banfield, no relation, continues to say that he feels unsteady on his feet. At that point, officers and the medics decide that he needs to be medically evaluated. This poor victim, this poor husband. Let's get him some help. So inside the ambulance, they get Brendan Banfield all situated in his comfy little gurney, and he begins answering basic medical questions. And take note of his hands. They are covered in blood. And take note of what he says about that.
Where'd all this blood come from,
I was holding her neck.
Okay. Physically, you weren't injured at all.
Anything hurting you at all, man? They're trying to find out so we can make sure we get you help, too.
Doors pulling out of here. You guys.
We're going to need his,
No, you're good. You're good. Take your hands down.
That's fine.
If not,
you're not going to be able to have him in the hospital.
So he's asked whether he's been injured and whether anything hurts and whether he was struck with a knife or any other object. And I don't know. I'm so wrought with sadness. He says he doesn't believe he was injured. He also says, all that blood, not his. It's because I was holding my dear beloved wife's neck. And, I got bled on. Then all this is Christine's blood, and because I'm, a knight in shining armor. As the ambulance ride continues, Brendan repeatedly asks whether he can go with his wife to the hospital. When can I see her? And the officers explain that if he chooses to be medically evaluated, he'll be taken to the hospital as well. And on the body cam, you can hear the audio of the officers confirming that he is being taken to the hospital for medical reasons, because wah. And then he's not under arrest, they say. And when the ambulance arrives at the hospital, Brendan Banfield is brought into the hospital and taken into emergency, where he's taken to a, nice little evaluation room, seated on a comfy little hospital bed. Medical staff begin the basics, right? I've watched ER, I watched The Pit. It's the basic physical evaluation. They check your vitals, they ask you questions, light in the eye, the whole bit. And they visibly examine Brendan. And they state on camera that they do not see any obvious wounds. No shit. Guy don't got nothing on him. He fine. He fine. Well, you wouldn't know it, though, with his little whimpers that you hear constantly as he whines in the emergency room. Brendan continues to report he feels unsteady, particularly his right leg, which he describes as having spasms, because, must be so hard to murder people if he's guilty. So next thing that happens, a doctor comes in and she explains to Brendan that his wife, Christine, suffered massive blood loss and that the injuries that Christine suffered were not survivable. And that despite every effort medical staff made, there was nothing more that could be done, that Christine had died. I know what you're thinking. What was Brendan's reaction? That must have been rich. And oh, was it ever? Viewed now in light of all the evidence in this case, everything that he'd been up to, skulking around with the nanny, right? And the allegations against him that he actually orchestrated this double murder, planned it to the T, right? So he could be with the nanny. It is so deeply unsettling. And honestly, it's hard to stomach. I am going to play Brendan Banfield's reaction to "Sir, your wife has died because you killed her," allegedly. I'm going to play that in just a second. Before I get to that, though, I do want to thank you so much for being a part of this podcast, especially in the last 17 days when I have felt like crud. I'm still not over that sickness, y'all. I talked to a doctor tonight. I'm getting some prednisone, I think, for the owies. Anyway, I've appreciated you sticking with me thick and thin, and all your nice comments as well. I could not do this without you. Frankly, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it without you. You matter. I also could not do this without my sponsors. So if you permit me for a second to talk about something I'm really liking these days, Wild Grain. I don't know if you've tried it yet, but hello, this is awesome. First ever Bake from Frozen subscription box for sourdough breads and artisanal pastries and fresh pastas. Everything bakes in 25 minutes or less, and then your house smells amazing. Like, I'm a sourdough person, so right out of the freezer into the oven, then hello, the whole house smells great. And the ingredients are the best part. It's real. It's all real. You can pronounce the ingredients. It's like the farm, right? I'm super obsessed with the bread, and it's really elite when it's cold out. And did I say it was zero? It's zero. The boxes are also completely customizable. So nothing like having an artisan bakery in your freezer to chase away the winter chill. And now's the best time to stay in and have some of that yummy, yummy custom baking with Wild Grain. And I've got great news. I got you $30 off your first box. Yes! And I got you free croissants for life. All you have to do is go to wildgrain.com/Banfield and start your subscription today. Again, $30 off your first box. Free croissants for life. You're welcome. Just visit wildgrain.com/Banfield and use the code Banfield, the promo code at checkout. All right, back to the case. On the body cam, when Brendan is told that his wife Christine has not survived the horrendous injuries that he himself is now charged with inflicting on her, Brendan starts to cry. You know, you can hear it. You can hear all of it. You can hear his whole reaction. You can see it too. At times he puts his head down, struggling to speak, audibly sobbing as the doctor continues to explain what it was they think caused Christine's death.
Check what?
The status of his wife, ma'am.
Hi, sir. My name is Gina. I'm one of the doctors here. Your wife has died. So sorry.
What is info?
Were you there at the time?
Yes.
You were there at the time. So is there any part that I can help? I can explain what happened when she arrived here, but you were there and it sounds like there was a lot of blood loss.
Yes.
And so I think that she died of blood loss. Her airway was actually okay. I'll call the medical examiner, of course, and we'll do an autopsy and make sure we know for
Yes.
certain. But
I was trying to apply pressure.
yeah, I mean those were enormous wounds, and it's not.
There were so many.
Yes, and the neck is not compressible, so it's not possible really to stop all the blood loss. And her airway, it seems like, was in the midline okay. She was able to be intubated. Everything that was possible to be done was done for her right away. You did a wonderful, you did everything that was possible. It's not a survivable injury.
Almost immediately afterward, Brendan starts asking about his daughter. And he asks more than once, clearly wanting to know where she is and whether she's okay. Isn't that nice of him? Wow. If he's guilty of murdering her mother, why does he give a shit about his daughter when he's taken away arguably the most important thing in her life? But okay, he's asking about her. He is told that she is safe and that she is with officers. Again, if you're guilty, you did this. You piece of shit. A hospital staff member steps in, offers him tissues because kid gloves, and then asks him if there's anything she can do for him in that moment. And Brendan asks for a prayer for his wife, Christine. Remember I told you Lindsay and I needed a glass of wine and we felt like we were going to vomit through all this? That was the biggest vomitous moment. Yeah. So let's just imagine that for a moment, shall we? Let's just say a prayer for the woman I just murdered, allegedly. Afterwards, officers calmly explain what happens next. They tell Brendan that he won't be able to make phone calls just yet. They explain that the clothes that he's wearing are going to need to be photographed and collected as evidence. And then they did something I did not understand. Not for a moment. They said, would you like to wash your hands, given that, it's all Christine's blood? Would you like to wash your hands? Oh, yes, I would. Yes, I would. And I watched on that body cam as he washed Christine's blood off his hands, the evidence. Wait a minute. What about the photographs? Shouldn't we be photographing him first before he gets to wash all that evidence off his hands in the emergency room? Hello? That's evidence. I was just holding her neck, my beloved wife. That's why I have so much blood on my hands, not because I was stabbing the hell out of her and shooting the other guy dead. So, okay, he gets to wash his hands because kid gloves. And there he went, washing and washing and washing. Wonder what he was thinking. Well, there goes the rest of her. Now she's really gone. Is that what he was thinking at that sink? There goes the rest of Christine. I couldn't stand having it on me anyway. Is that what he was thinking? Because if he's guilty of killing her, that's what I think he was thinking of her. Get this blood off me. Ugh. So while Brendan's still in the emergency room, being told what the next steps are, investigators are already documenting what they found inside the house. So like I said at the top of this podcast, the crime scene photographs make it immediately clear just how chaotic and violent those two deaths were inside the Banfield's, no relation, master bedroom. The images showed blood all over the carpet, like lots. I can't even show you all of it. It's a lot of blood. So the carpet is all stained. The flooring in the areas where both victims were found, dark. Stains stand out against the lighter interior of the house, visually pretty much underscoring how much blood loss there was in the bedroom, right? Among the items photographed at the scene, a knife covered in blood on the handle, on the blade. It was on the floor, kind of half under the bed. And the gun, that was found as well and photographed in the bedroom. Lots of sex toys. Those were all kind of laid out and photographed, and you can see that it looked like a BDSM plan, right? And then I got to say, it was so sad. Joseph Ryan's body was photographed in that bedroom as well. It looked like he died mostly on the dog bed. They're so graphic I can't show you the pictures, but just safe to say that I felt so sad for this guy because say what you will about somebody who decides to go and have a romp and some kink in the middle of the day, but whatever, this guy was lured not only to his own death, but he was lured to be the fall guy for murder, right? As the story goes, if you believe the nanny who finally decided to flip on the husband that she's stupping, the whole plan was to get rid of Christine and call up some unsuspecting fetish guy, right? Pretend to be Christine and say, come on over and make it rough, Let's simulate some real rough stuff. Bring a knife and cut my clothes off and all the rest. Pretending, this is what the nanny says. Pretend to be Christine and say all these things and invite this guy over from a fetish website. So Joseph Ryan takes the bait. And I'm going to show you some of the communications between Joseph Ryan and who he thinks is Christine, right? Because as I read the communications planning for this BDSM visit, I thought, the guy seems nice. It seems like he's into the kink, big deal, who isn't, right? But he's kind and he's thoughtful about Christine's welfare and safety. And so all through the planning of the dirty stuff that, they're going to do, and again, I don't believe for a minute it's Christine. And the nanny says it wasn't Christine, it was them pretending to be Christine to lure him. You can see Joseph still making sure that she's okay with everything, that she's going to be safe, she's going to be all right. And it just gave him some life that I think has really been missing in this story. He's like the forgotten victim in all of this. The guy was murdered, and he had no idea what was coming. And not only that, he was murdered, and if what the nanny says is true, they plan to make him the dirtiest, filthiest murderer ever, right? Home invader, rapist with a knife who murdered Christine after setting up a fetish visit, right? There's so many reasons to be angry about this story. There's so many reasons to be angry about that nanny and that piece of shit husband. So many reasons. And then I see Joseph Ryan and I think there's another huge one. Just huge. So the police see this mess of hell and they see where Christine Banfield's body is. They see where Joseph Ryan's body is. They see the knife. They see the guns. They see the fetish equipment, all the BDSM toys and stuff. And in addition to all of that and the murder weapon, the photographs include blood-stained clothing, including socks and shoes. That's going to be important. Remember that. And there were other personal items that were collected and later sent to the lab for analysis because that's what you do. Some of the most difficult images document portions of Joe Ryan's body inside the bedroom, his blood-stained jeans, his blood-stained body, the position of his limbs, the surrounding environment where he met his death. So I mentioned blood found on socks and shoes. Of course, in a murder scene, you're probably going to see that, right? Not the way they found it. That's what forensics is all about. Sometimes blood will tell you timing and what people were doing and weren't doing when the blood was flying. And they found the nanny had blood on the bottom of her socks inside the shoes. How'd that happen? How'd you get the blood inside your shoe? How'd you get Christine Banfield's blood inside your shoe on your sock? Because it doesn't match the story you were telling. So that's important in this trial, right? They already know they have a bit of a fibber. Bit of a fibber. Lying sack of shit. Both the nanny and the husband. So then they've got the crime scene photos that were taken on round 2 because the officers came back. They came back to the home in April. Yeah. That's 2 months after the crime because remember, the crime happened February 24th, 2023. April, 2 months later, the cops come back the very next day. Not really, 2 months later. And they see some things. And if you ever thought for a minute that this murder plot was brilliant, the way they carried it out, hiring some guy to come over from a fetish site, bring a knife, make it scary, cut my pajamas off, and then suddenly she's dead from a knife wound and there's an intruder in the house with a knife, right? And then, of course, the idea here is that the nanny's telling the truth. They killed the intruder and they stabbed the wife to death, and suddenly they're free to carry on their nanny, master of the house, dirty, filthy affair. But it was badly planned. If you thought it was well planned, boy, do I have news for you. The red flags, or shall I say the red lingerie flags, really came out when the police came back. Because they noticed something that was different. They had photographed the nanny's bedroom. They had photographed the master bedroom and the master closet when the murders happened. And if you look at these photos that I'm going to show you, here's the nanny's closet. You can see she's got her stripper type shoes. She's real short, right? She's like 5 feet, so she wears the platform stripper shoes. But look above on the clothing. You can see on the very left-hand side of all the hanging clothes, zoom in, it's like a red bra, like a sexy lingerie bra. And there's sexy lingerie hanging close to that too, right? Like a red satin with black lace. I don't know what that is, but maybe it's like a bathrobe or something. I don't know. Maybe it's just some slinky jammies. I don't know. And if you keep going, there's that red dress with the sequined or crystal straps. I mean, they stand out like a beacon in that closet. You could see that. You don't even have to like rifle through the closet. You can just see it. You see that red dress with the crystals. And you just keep going to the right. You see that what looks to me like probably some kind of Brazil soccer shirt, the red and green, right? So it's very identifiable, the stuff in that closet. And when the cops came back 2 months later, they found the nanny's closet was empty. Do what now? The nanny's closet is empty? Why would that be? She's still there looking after the kid, presumably, in the absence of the sad, tragic death of the mother. Oh, well, turns out they found where that emptied closet ended up. Bingo! There it is. That's the master bedroom closet. And I do believe I recognize some of those same pieces of clothing. There's that sexy bra, the red bra, and there's that sexy satin garbagey thing that she wore with the black lace on it, hanging right there where Christine's clothes used to be. Oh yeah, remember that long red dress with the crystal or sequin straps? There it is. Yeah. Pretty much all the nanny's clothes. Oh, and the Brazilian soccer shirt, for good measure, the red and green thing. Yeah. There's the nanny's clothes, all nicely moved into Christine's closet, hanging nicely beside Brendan's lying sack of shit clothes. So, yeah, you could imagine the cops were a little surprised. Wait, what's happening here? Lady of the house got offed only 2 months ago, and Nanny has moved right into her place. And if you thought there might be a good explanation for that, what I'm about to show you will crush that explanation. In the bedroom, the very unmade bed, take a look on the side table, right? The bedstand to the right. Zero in on that photo. Oh, it's a happy couple, and it's not Christine and Brendan Banfield. No relation. It's the nanny and Brendan Banfield in a lovey-dovey pose, framed on the bedside table. Okay. Well, maybe one photograph isn't a big deal. But let's go up and look on the, let's go look above the fireplace. Yeah, right. There's another framed photo. Zoom in on that. Happy couple again. Brendan Banfield and the lying sack of shit nanny. The two lying sacks of shit canoodling in their pictures and posing them in the bedroom where they are both clearly now sleeping. Even her lingerie is on the bed. That ain't Christine's lingerie. Christine's clothes are nowhere to be found. Boy, he got rid of those fast, didn't he? Sad husband. Where's my wife? Let's say a prayer for her. And then let me move my mistress into the bedroom. These are the photos that made my blood run cold and made my mind go angry. This is the kind of douchery that guys like this do and girls like that do. That's why I keep saying it, lying sacks of shit. So why should I believe them on the stand? Why should I believe anything from either of them? Except for the fact that what she said to clear her own skin and get a deal, right? She agreed to just tell the prosecutors everything, because she was facing, life, no parole for double murder. It's funny how that is. Funny how when you're faced with that, you'll turn on your lovey-dovey boyfriend. And to that end, you want to know how lovey-dovey? Just wait, I have her jailhouse letters, and it'll make you vomit. Yeah, so didn't take long before she finally said, yeah, I'm not going to cover for this guy anymore. And the story that she tells, even though she's a lying sack of shit, fits all the evidence, fits a lot of the story, fits the case. So lying or not, sometimes it's very hard to lie when the physical evidence actually matches. So he's got that going for him, right? That lovey-dovey little girl that he loved, yeah, she didn't love you enough to save your skin. She loved herself enough to save her skin. Don't even get me started on how much she saved her skin, because I feel like even a deal, she still should have gone away for 25 years. I'm going to tell you in a minute what this deal was and what she's likely going to get when she's sentenced. And pour another, because I think you might be getting low. pour a stiffer one. One other thing I want you to look at in this bedroom, because there's so much about this man I despise and this nanny that I despise. But there's a pillow on the master bed. Take note of the color of the pillow. Yeah, it's purple, right? You know where else you saw purple? The master bedroom where Christine was murdered. Purple sheets. Yeah. So I don't know if I can make this leap, but it seems like they didn't even get rid of the murder sheets. They're still using them. Guess they just washed the blood out and remade the master bed, and all good. Beyond the physical evidence, the investigators looked at social media and all the activity that was tied to the people living inside the Banfield household. No relation. The posts include images showing Little Miss Juliana the nanny and Little Mr. Brendan Banfield snuggling together in a bubble bath. Now, okay, she puts an emoji over his face, but that's his jaw. That's him. And there they are sitting nice and tight to each other in the back of a cab, seemingly in New York City. That's what I'm guessing. And again, there's an emoji over his face, but this one's video, and he's talking. And you can hear him talking on the recording, so have a listen.
I don't really know this.
You do. You're singing.
I know the chorus.
I need you. I miss you. And now I want.
Yeah, that sure sounds like the Brendan Banfield who was on the stand, right? You idiot. You're with your illicit lover in the back of a cab. You're cheating on your wife, and you're doing Instagram stories? Again, idiots. So I told you about the letters, right? Handwritten letters. So many. Nauseating love letters written from jail. Little Miss Juliana the nanny, still very much in love with her allegedly murderous husbandy lover. And she just will not give up. She can't quit him. She can't quit him. And she's hell-bent on telling him that she will not flip for him. Let me read you a piece. Babe, I miss you with all my heart, my cells, my bones. It's so painful being away from you, and it just gets worse and more painful. I keep thinking of you all day and night. I don't know for how long they will keep me away from you. Sister, life. But it won't change anything, the way I feel about you. It'll just be killing me daily. And then there's a hand-drawn sad face. Yeah, that's kind of what happens when you murder people. You suffer in prison. Currently in jail, but soon to be in prison, I hope. Let me carry on. You are my whole world and have been since the first day we were together. I take you just the way you are, hand-drawn heart. Can I just tell you, I had to read through these so you wouldn't. I had to read letter after letter after nauseating letter from this moronic, lying, cheating sack of shit nanny. Murderous sack of shit nanny. By her own admission. And they said the same things over and over. Mostly how she just wouldn't dare sell him out. Like, listen to this. They got me to try to get you. They want me to help them against you because they think you have something to do with what happened. They have been trying to get it from me so they would get to you. And they will be trying that the whole time they will be holding me here. P.S. Clearly English is her second language because this is just junk. That's what they want. Why they arrested me. Trying to put me against you and using other things. They even lied to me about getting tickets to go back to Brazil when I did not do it. And then there's a couple letters that she writes to Brendan's mother, who she calls Mimi. And can I just say this? Brendan's mother was paying for her legal defense. Brendan's mother, I repeat, was paying Juliana's lawyer. So maybe that will make sense when I start reading you the letter and how sycophantic she is to Mimi, Brendan's mom. Here's what she writes. Maybe we happened at the wrong time / moment in a wrong way, but I believe everything happens for a reason with purpose. I don't regret that. Nothing about him or us. So, the same way I remind him every day how handsome he is and how much I miss him, I want you to feel that too, how special he is for me. When I think about death, I can't think of a better way to die than loving him and thinking about me. He is 38 years old and never imagined himself with a 22-year-old Brazilian tiny person. But life surprises us in the best way. If I died today, I would have been so happy this last year with him, but I would still be wishing to be with him, to love more if given a chance. So this whole business about being given a chance, this is where you might want another drink. Make it a triple, okay? Because all I want to see is this lying sack of shit girl locked up for the rest of her life. No parole. No parole. Because the prosecutors say that when Joseph Ryan was dying, not dead yet, dying on the floor of the Banfield's master bedroom, this lying sack of shit nanny came in with her little gun that she'd been out training at the training range, the shooting range, the firing range. She was learning how to use that gun. And she executed him point blank. That's this girl. She admitted it. She told the story herself. So I just, she said it on the stand, and it was hilarious because she could barely get the words out because she knew how douchey and filthy and murderous she sounded. But she signed a deal. And she skated. You know how well she skated on this? She signed a deal with the prosecutors to open the floodgates of everything, tell the entire murderous scheme for manslaughter, which is max 10 years. And I'm like, wait, what? 10 years for this lying sack of shit, murderous piece of dirt? What? 10 years? Are you kidding me? Gets worse. They've even moved to time served, which is now like only 2 years. So, yeah. Leaning over a dying man, 2 years. You know who else would have been really happy to have a second chance? Joseph Ryan. That innocent man that the nanny confessed. They catfished. They tricked him. They ambushed him. They murdered him in cold blood, and they made him look like the murderer. Well, the prosecutors got the telegram messages that were, allegedly by Christine reaching out to a fetish website looking for some action, right? Right? Some BDSM action. It wasn't her. Come on. We're not idiots. We were told by this nanny what the murderous plan was, and it was to catfish some guy. She and her little snooky, right, man of the house, she and Brendan Banfield would go to the catfishing sites and they would get a guy. And they'd get the perfect guy who would agree to everything and think he was talking to Christine. Bring your knife. Make it look scary. Come on in and let's be all rapey. Yeah, bring the knife and cut the clothes off me. The telegram messages show that Joseph Ryan believed he was communicating with Christine, not realizing that prosecutors say it was these other two lying sacks of shit, controlling it, participating in those conversations. And yes, the messages are explicit. They're detailed. They're pretty much what you would expect when you're communicating with someone from FetLife. There's a lot of talk of fisting and stuff like that, right? Real dirty stuff. And also the violence. I want this to be aggressive, right? I want it to be violent. That's what Brendan and the nanny, that's what they're communicating. This is what the nanny says. let's make it look real violent. Like, come in and make it violent. Scare me. It's going to seem really, I'm going to seem really scared. I'll say. So Joseph Ryan believes that this is the encounter that Christine wants, right? And the messages show that Joseph Ryan arrived at the Banfield home expecting a consensual BDSM situation, not violence. In fact, in one message, Joseph even is so considerate in making sure that this is going to be a safe encounter. He says, quote, I don't want to do this if you're going to be having a panic attack or injured or something, right? Like, he is concerned about Christine. He's making sure that this person that he's communicating with, who's planning this really kinky sexual escapade with bondage and all the rest and the knife and everything, want to make sure you're okay. Like, he's not just diving into this wholehearted, like, yeah, I'm going to rough someone up. He wants to make sure she's okay. And the messages broke my heart when I read them. Because I do feel like he's really a lost and forgotten victim in all of this. It's not a big deal that somebody wants to do something kinky. That is not a crime, right? This was all supposed to be consensual. And he had no idea he was being lured into his death and having a murder pinned on him. When Brendan Banfield, don't ask me why, but decided to take the stand in his own defense, the entire case narrowed down to one question. Do you believe him? Or more importantly, do the 12 jurors facing him believe him? Because I'm going to tell you something. Again, I've been to this rodeo a lot. I don't believe a word out of his mouth. First of all, I know what a lying sack of shit he is, right? I already know that. I know what he's capable of. I know the deceit, right? The betrayal, all of it. The filth and the dirt. Stipping the nanny right in the same house as your wife. Like, hello, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Same thing. Ugh. But when he gets on the stand, I see his beady little eyes going back and forth, right? He's on direct examination, and he's trying to walk the jurors through his version of what he says happened inside the house that morning, and it's hilarious. So this is what he describes, and pretend you're the jury for a minute and hold your vomit. He describes coming into the house and like hearing some sex noises upstairs, right? And he's trying to make the jury think like, so I basically think my wife's upstairs having an affair, but it sounds like consensual sex. Yeah, that'd be your first thought. Yeah, that would be your first thought. Not what the actual fuck is going on upstairs in my master bedroom with my wife. That's not your first thought? I hear some sex and I think it's consensual. Okay, boomer. But then suddenly he realizes something is wrong. And he told the jury that when he entered the bedroom, he saw Joseph Ryan over his wife, armed with a knife. Beady-eyed little fuck looking back and forth to the jurors, begging them to believe him. Begging them. Brendan Banfield testified that he identified himself as police and ordered Joseph Ryan to drop the weapon because, you know, he's IRS. Scary. He said he hesitated to fire, though, hoping that Joe Ryan would comply, and that when he did shoot, it was driven by fear for his wife's life. No intention to kill anybody. He told the jurors that after Joe Ryan was shot, he immediately turned his attention to his dying wife, Christine, trying to help her and applying pressure to her wounds and following the 911 instructions as best he could in what he described as utter chaos. I'm so confused what's happening. And you know what else he did from the stand? He had to face that relationship that he was having with the nanny, you know, the Stuppen. He had to acknowledge that, he had to admit right there that yes, indeed, I've been Stuppen the nanny. Yep, having an affair with the 21, 22-year-old down the hall who's looking after my kid. He admitted on the stand that he'd been in love with her at one point, though he insisted that at the time of the killings, they had only been having an affair for 6 to 8 weeks, max. And it was absurd to think that he would get rid of his wife. And then came the cross-examination. Prosecutors, they had a field day. They pressed him on his training and his experience as a former law enforcement officer, questioning why, if he truly believed that his wife was being stabbed, why would you wait to fire the gun? Typically, if someone's being stabbed, you shoot, right? You meet deadly force with deadly force. And they challenged his explanation that fear and hesitation kept him from acting sooner. They also walked him through the timeline of that morning, probing the inconsistencies between his testimony and the other evidence that was presented at trial. The prosecutors questioned his account of scheduled meetings and plans for the day, contrasting his statements with actual testimony from supervisors and, those pesky digital records that just didn't support his story. And they returned again and again to his relationship with the nanny, right? The intimacy, the messages, the letters, suggesting that, come on, bruh, it was deeper. It was way more involved than you're letting on. So now it's up to people like you and me, right? Just jury of his peers. 12 people. What do they feel? Do they feel the way I do? I wouldn't have made that jury, I'll tell you. Do they have the same, hate for this guy? I despise this guy. Despise him. And remember what I said at the top? I said, you got one job if you're on trial for murder, and that's to get the jury to like you. You got to get them to like you. You got to give them reason to think, no, couldn't be possible. Let's look at the evidence again. Can't be that guy. And I'm telling you, the prism I'm looking through is, it's definitely got to be that guy. Prove me wrong. Yeah, prove it wrong, not prove it right. That's what happens when you hate the defendant. When you have a lying sack of shit, a cheating, dirty, filthy, beady-eyed sack of shit. When the evidence doesn't match what he says, when the girl you've been stipping already turned on you and basically blew the whole thing wide open, all the details that matched up with the evidence, right? This jury's not going to like him. I've been to this rodeo. I'm telling you, I have been in these courtrooms and you see the jury. And what's really fascinating is a lot of times when they take breaks and the jury goes out and the jury comes back in, you see if they look at the defendant. Because a lot of times when they can't stand the defendant, they won't look at him. And when they have a guilty verdict, they don't want to look at him at all. So that'll be really interesting to watch. If you're in the courtroom, to watch, does the jury look at him when they come in? When they walk out and when they come in, do they look at him? I mean, if that were me on the jury, I'd be burning holes in them with my eyes. Because I hate this guy and I hate that girl. And all I keep thinking about is Christine and how terrified she must have been. She's in bed, and suddenly a man with a knife is ripping her clothes off. The man with the knife thinks it's part of the plans, thinks that that's what she called him and asked him for, right? Christine has no idea what's going on, but she thinks she's about to be raped and murdered by a knife-wielding home intruder. The terror that she went through. This is what I think of when I look at that beady-eyed fucker on the stand. The terror that Christine was going through. And when that beady-eyed fucker came into the bedroom and shot Joe Ryan, and Christine maybe is thinking, I don't even know the condition of her stab wounds at that point, but is she thinking, oh my God, are you going to save me? Thank God, my knight in shining armor. And then there he is. No, I'm not here to save you. I'm here to kill you. Just imagine what was going through her mind. I can't, the waves of what is actually happening that she must have been going through, right? If they find him guilty, I hope he thinks about that every fucking day of his life, right? Or maybe someone will be shanking him at some point and he'll be wondering, I wonder if this is what Christine felt. So again, it's up to the jury now, and we'll see where this lands. They've got the weekend to think about it, and I don't know. I don't think it's going to take them long, but I'd be so curious to hear what you have to say. What do you think? I don't know if you're as angry as I am or if you're more sober-minded and you can think through all the evidence. I just feel like I've had too much, just too much of it. So I don't know if it's cold where you are right now. Is it any colder now? Nope, still 0. But it's going down to -7. It's going to be kind of a crappy weekend for a lot of people across the country who are dealing with the cold snap and the weather and the storms and all the rest. But imagine what this weekend's going to be like for Brendan Banfield, no relation. It's like down to the wire, right? It's all over but the decision from the jury. So kind of like his last weekend of hope that maybe he'll get out of this jail and have his girl back. No, they'll never get back together, right? I think he probably wants to kill her. But this is his final weekend of contemplation of where he's going to spend the rest of his life. So when that verdict comes down, I need you to be with me. I need you guys to keep me from going right off the ledge, right? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sticking through this. Thank you for watching and listening and being a part of this. Don't forget, if you have to get your Valentine's Day merch, go to shop.dropdeadserious.com. We've got the link in the description, and you can get yourself these adorable shirts that, well, we thought them up, right? This is definitely from the mind of the crazy people like me. I love you to death. Partner in crime. I'm drop dead serious about you. And one of my personal favorites, the like little banner that, intertwines saying life sentence of two people together. Adorable. Hey, listen, thanks again for being here. I'm Ashleigh Banfield. Remember, the truth isn't just serious, it's drop dead serious.